Welcome to the You Are More podcast. I'm Blaine Ledbetter.
And I'm Laken Stewart. If you're looking for an authentic community that shares the truth of the gospel and the truth about life, you've come to the right place.
We believe that you are more. You're more than motherhood, more than your ministry, and more than your career. Grab a cup of coffee and listen in to hear the truth about what it means to find your identity in Christ through every season of life.
Welcome to the You Are More podcast.
Hi, friends. It's Blaine and Laken. Welcome to the You Are More podcast. If this is your first time listening, we're glad you're tuning in today.
Yeah.
And if you've listened to every episode and you're our faithful followers, we love you so much.
Appreciate it.
We do. It's been fun. My gosh, we've been going for
Over
what,
6
like
months, just about.
yeah, a little over 6 months, which is crazy. I was gonna say 9. I don't know why. Like, I guess because it just seems longer. But
There's a lot of life
we
that's been lived in the last 6 months.
in the last 6 months. You're right. That's true. So, anyways, if you're here with us, if you're listening today, welcome. Welcome back or welcome for the first time. So, anyways, so today's episode, I think we bounce from motherhood focus to marriage focus to
Work.
like work, career, if you're in the ministry. So, we're kind of all over the place in terms of our audience and then also what we talk about. But today, just a heads up, this is definitely more motherhood, like kid focused.
Yep.
And I wouldn't even say motherhood. Gosh, this is like parenthood, like
Yeah.
parents. Focus. So today, this is something that I'm pretty sure was like a listener suggestion, maybe. I don't know.
So,
But I know I've talked about this with you, Laken. I've talked about it with one of our mutual coworker friends. I think it comes up a lot, and I think it's something that a lot of parents, especially of littles, are being more conscious of, and that is how to give your kids more of Jesus. And gosh, it seems daunting, honestly. Like, I don't know.
it looks different for every single family.
Mhm. Yep.
And whether you're at the beginning of your journey with following the Lord and getting close to Jesus, or you've been doing it for decades, I think there's something here for everybody.
Mhm.
Because honestly, like it's not easy to like carve that time out and sit with your kids and teach them something after a long day or after
Mhm.
a fitful night. And so, yeah, but I do think there's something here for everyone, and it doesn't always have to be this picture perfect, let's all have circle time moment.
Mhm.
of
Well,
kid. Yeah.
that and I was thinking, I think last night, just in thinking through like, gosh, what are we gonna talk about? Like, what do I have to say about this? It certainly does not come naturally. I don't know about y'all, but it's not something that,
I have to work at it. Like,
yes, it's definitely an intentionality. Like, this is not just something that is part of our day or didn't start like that, or even part of our week. Like, we for sure had to be very, very intentional about, you know, for me, my kids go to school and, um, I know a lot of parents, like your kids go to daycare or public school, private school, or even homeschool, but like
yeah.
they hear so much information and there are a lot of people talking to them about everything. Where's my voice in it to point them to Jesus? That's
Yeah.
what try to be like very conscious of is like they're watching TV. Okay, that's fine with us. Like we do TV, we do screen time. Um,
Same.
Honestly, it's the only way to get through some work days.
It's true.
But
Oh,
I
man.
think about all the content that they consume and all the people who are pouring into their lives, and not that anyone in our lives right now, thankfully, are pouring into them, like, negatively or just not God's truth and God's word, but it is mine and Andrew's responsibility to be sure that we are leading the charge in giving them Jesus and that it's an overflow of our own relationship. So it
Yeah.
really checks me of like, are they gonna see Jesus in me? Because like
Yeah.
I hope so, but does that mean that I'm also walking with him? So, how about you guys, Lakin? How are
Yeah.
you feeling about that?
We are in the same boat for sure. It's not something that comes easily or naturally to us as a family. Even though, my husband is in ministry.
Yep, yep,
It
same.
does, it is a part of our like daily conversations, but it's like if we're going to sit down and like read a story of the Bible and talk about it, which
Mhm.
always ends in just mass chaos and 10,000 questions from our 3-year-old.
Yep,
Just
yep,
all of the things. It really takes like a mental shift for both Cody and I to be like, okay, this is fruitful. We have to lay down our desires to just turn on the TV
mhm,
and really this is something that is needed for our family. Um, and I have had to come like when I was growing up, it was like a part of our life, but I don't like have vivid memories of like us sitting down together as a family when I was a little kid and like reading the Bible or
yeah,
talking about it. And I'm sure that that did happen, but I don't remember it being this like monumental part of my childhood. Um,
mhm,
and I think maybe that's why it doesn't come as naturally or easily to me. And I think just in human nature in general, choosing to walk with the Lord is not easy. Like, for
right,
us as
yeah,
adults, it's hard to carve out time, like, to make sure we
yeah,
have undivided attention on the word and prayer, and that's a hard thing for us adults to do, and I think it's, like, doubly hard for our kids to do too, and for them to understand why we do this, and, to kinda give them the freedom to express, what they're feeling and
mhm,
how they're, what's the word? Oh, my brain. Like, they're absorbing like
yeah,
the
yeah,
nature of God in our everyday life, and um there are definitely days when I'm 1,000% positive my children do not see Jesus in me. um
um,
and then
that's most
there are,
days for
yeah,
over here.
there are some days when I'm like, okay, did pretty good today. Let's try again tomorrow.
Mhm,
Um, and I think there are more ways to show your kids Jesus than just by sitting down and reading the word and praying with them. And while that is so, so, so important, really kids learn from what you do and what you say and your actions. And so
yep,
like
mhm,
my little 2-year-old, she just turned 2 a couple weeks ago, and she just loves to copy everything I do. She will like carry around a little
oh,
purse like I carry around, or
I
like carry around
love
a
it.
water bottle like I do. And I'm like, she is watching every move I make.
Mhm,
I need to make sure I my
yeah,
actions are, God glorifying, God honoring for her sake because she's watching everything that I do. And my 3-year-old does that with Cody. She's, like, obsessed with his job and pretends she's going to work and
oh,
all of that, and, uh,
yeah,
but yeah, I think it's inviting your kids into the everyday chaos that you experience as a parent, and
yeah,
then inviting them in to see, like, how you deal with that on a daily basis, whether that be
yeah,
through, like, just sitting on your knees and going, "God, help me, please," or
yeah,
by, like, intentionally praying at each meal and thanking the Lord for things that, He's given you, like food and shelter, or, um, sitting down and reading your Bible independently. And because most times, if I sit down with my Bible and open it up and read, Charlotte will go grab hers and, like, flip through the pages
yeah,
because she's trying to mimic what I'm doing.
mhm,
And so, yeah, I think it's a whole spectrum. Like, some days it's we're barely surviving, so I just pray that my kids don't think that I'm the worst mom ever. And then
yeah,
other days, it's like we have a planned thing. Cody, like, tells a story and they draw about it, and then we hang it on the wall, and, like,
Mhm.
Those are some things that we do, but I think it looks different every day. It looks different for every family, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, um,
Right, right.
except if you don't. So
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say, like, for us, it doesn't look like us sitting down every single day,
yeah,
making my kids memorize a Bible verse
yeah,
just for the
just
sake
for
of
the
memorizing that Bible verse.
yeah.
Like, you know, when I think we do, like, a verse a quarter, which not even a quarter, but maybe every couple months, because it is, for them, hard to memorize. But I care a little bit less about memorizing and more about understanding what that verse means, and so each time they get a verse, we really talk through that, break down the verse, like, "What does that even mean?" And it's short, and it's easy for them to remember, and they
Yeah.
still remember all the Bible verses they memorized last year. There was only about 4, maybe, but they came out of the study that we were doing, but yeah, like you just said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and
Mhm.
there also is no shame or guilt for
Yeah,
not doing it,
yeah,
but that shouldn't, like you said, be a reason not to, of like, "Well, I can't do it perfect, can't do it every day, I'm not doing it all, so let's just forget about doing it tomorrow because we're already behind," when I mean, the best time to start is right now. I had a friend telling me she's got older kids, but she was like, "I just feel so guilty that we haven't really talked about Holy Week or something," and I was like, "Well, the best time to start is right now," and there's no shame. It's not like God is keeping score, like, "Oh, you didn't talk to your kids about that," whatever. Um, but we also just I really want our kids to see that we don't compartmentalize
mm. Oh, yeah,
Jesus. So,
yeah.
like,
He's not
being in ministry.
on a
Yeah,
shelf and then brought out
right.
when needed. Yeah.
Like, I want them to see who we are at church, who we are at work, which for Andrew is the church, but,
Yeah.
like, in public spaces, with friends, with them, at home, like, we don't just walk through the door of our house and everything we did at church is in vain. We really we just want it to be an overflow, like, even what happens at church, we want that to be an overflow of what the tone that we set at home about,
Yeah.
you know, Andrew and I both reading our Bibles every day. Because how can I explain to my kids in tough situations, like, you know, this is why Jesus came to
Mhm.
die for us, and, like, this is what sin is? How can I explain these things if I'm not in the Word? And, I know a lot of parents are probably there. It's like, I don't have a relationship with the Lord because I don't know where to start, but I'm like, just start.
Yeah.
Literally just start. It does not have to be perfect. It's like a dating relationship. If you want to know somebody more, you've gotta talk to them more than once a
Once
month.
Yeah, exactly. Or once a week when you go to church. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's laying the groundwork on, like, why.
Yes.
Why are we giving our kids more of Jesus? I mean, I want
Yeah.
them to be in heaven with me, but I can't just I can pray for that to happen, but it's not gonna happen by luck or
Yeah,
chance.
and
Like, we
we
have to
can't
water that soul.
yeah,
Yep.
we can't save them at all. That's, you know,
Mhm.
all God, and the only thing we can do is shoot the arrow in the right direction. Um,
Mhm. Yep.
there's like an analogy of children are arrows in your quiver, and
Yes, in Psalm, it's a that verse in Psalm.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that's exactly right. Like children are just our arrows, and we have them for this short period of time, and then we get to release them into the world, and they get to make their own decisions and have their own lives, hopefully not separate from ours, but definitely
Yeah.
independent, themselves. And
Mhm.
they get to like walk the same roads that we walked, in terms of faith and adulthood and what that looks like. And the only thing we can do now is prayerfully prepare them for that season.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be this like picturesque, perfect sit down every morning at the breakfast table and read
Yep.
a devotion and ask questions, and because most times breakfast is on the floor in my house, like, we
Oh
just
my gosh.
we all sit on
It's
the kitchen floor and eat, and
on
it's
the
just
way to
that's
school.
what happens.
Yep. That's not realistic for us, and I know some families who
That
have done that, who do
Yeah,
that.
and that's amazing,
Great.
like, that's
It's what works
awesome.
for you.
Yeah, I can you give us some of that energy over here? Like,
Right.
um,
So,
yeah,
shifting gears, like, practically, let's talk about what does it look like typically, and you've alluded to it, but,
yeah,
like, for you guys, you said that about the story, like, are there any other times that you guys are being intentional, like,
yeah.
um, with the girls?
Yeah, so Cody he loves the Jesus Storybook Bible, and I love it too.
Mhm.
Our
Me
kid
too.
Ours is completely destroyed, we need to get another one, it's been used so much.
Same. Yep. Mhm, it's taped up, literally. Mhm.
It's like every page is pretty much taped.
Yep.
Um, and he will kinda pick a story out of there, or we'll let Charlotte pick a story. Here recently, she only wants to talk about John the Baptist. Um, she knows exactly where John the Baptist is in that book, because every time she finds him, she goes, "Ew, stinky," because he's got flies flying all over.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but anyways, she'll sometimes pick a story, or Cody will pick a story, and she'll get out a piece of paper and he'll read the story and kind of tell it to her so that she can understand. And
Yep.
she likes to draw the story, so he'll like guide her through drawing it. And then at the end, we hang it up on the wall, and it's like her favorite thing ever. Uh,
Oh.
and that's just like one thing we do. That maybe happens once a week, maybe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but then one thing we do every night is, if I'm putting her to bed, I don't know what Cody does when he puts her to bed, which is 90% of the time. But when I
Mhm.
put either girl to bed, I always ask them, like, what are you thankful for today? What would you like to pray about? And then
Yep.
Charlotte loves to pray. It's mainly gibberish 90% of the time. But to me, that's just so sweet. Like, she's saying her prayer to the Lord, and that's just the sweetest thing
Yep.
ever. Um, and so also when we do sit at the dinner table together, which is maybe 3 times a week, um, we always try to go around and, like, ask everyone what they're thankful for, what's a good, like, thing that happened today, and, like, how can we thank God today for, what he's given us. Um, and Lila loves to sit in her little high chair, and she'll, like, clasp her hands together and put her head
Oh.
down, start, like, mumbling prayer. It's
Yep.
just, like, the cutest thing ever.
Yep.
Um, but that is generally the cadence of how we do things in our house. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
more, sometimes it's less. And then on Sunday mornings before, the girls and I get to church, Cody's already been there, I usually turn on, stories of the Bible on YouTube. Uh,
Yeah.
and Charlotte loves Jesus washing the disciples' feet. She's, like, obsessed with that one.
Mm.
We always turn that
Oh.
on, and some others, and, that's always sweet. But,
Yeah.
yeah, those are just a few of the things that we do, and I think at the end we're gonna talk through some, like, books that we have, but
Mhm.
we can talk about that at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, we do the same, like, once a week, we have family worship night, which sounds very formal, but it is absolutely not. We've so it's the same thing y'all do. Well, it's on Saturday nights because for us, that's a little more low key than, like, Sunday. We were used to do it on Sunday nights, and I was like, "Andrew, appreciate the effort, but, like,
It's been a long
Sundays, we're"
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a long day at church. We're pouring out so much of our time, energy, and, like, compassion, worship, all that, like, definitely being filled, but also pouring out, but, so I was like, "Can we just move it to Saturday night?" Because it's almost like I was starting to dread it on Sundays. So literally, as soon as we finish supper on Saturday nights, we will read a passage real short, which Dansby, because he can read now, has started reading some, which is, like,
Oh, fun.
just to hear your kids read the Bible is, like, incredible.
Cool.
And then we've got, of course, we'll talk resources later, but we go through this very short, like, explanation of what we just read. Right now, we're talking about the character of God, and, yeah, and then we'll, like, ask anybody at the table if they have anything to pray about, anything they're concerned about, worried about, because we're trying to create a culture of the dinner table being where we can talk about all the things,
Yeah.
and then
I
we
love
just end in prayer, and I mean, it's 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I've recorded when we did that day in the life, I recorded it, and oh my gosh, it was chaos. Everybody's, like, all over the place, like, we have to make people sit down. Somebody's probably gonna be upset, crying. I mean, but that is not a reason to stop and then just, like, throw up our hands and say, "We're never doing this again." It's definitely it's not gonna look perfect, but we're trying to, not train well, I mean, really train up a child in the way that they should go, but really just setting the pace and the tone for, like, "We're gonna do this," and we try not to miss doing it 2 weeks in a row because sometimes, like, we have plans and stuff, and that's okay.
her.
But, yeah, so we also do the Jesus Storybook Bible. We've really started reading it every single night for the past couple weeks, and we've never done that like that
That's
consistently.
cool. That's fun.
But Phoebe just really wants to hear about Jonah and the whale, so we're almost there. I don't know why, but, when it was Holy Week at bedtime, we talked about what Holy Week meant, in her terms.
Yeah.
And like you guys do at bedtime, before we pray, I'll always ask, "What do you need prayer for? Anything you're worried about, anxious about, anything you're thankful for, anybody you wanna pray for?" Just to get them to in the rhythm of, like, we can literally talk to God about anyone, anything, you know,
Mhm.
whatever we need, just going to Him with every request, so, and then also, like, just straight up going to church with our kids, because I
Yeah.
mean, I think a tendency is for some parents to be like, "Well, it's too much trouble." I mean, it's just chaos
Okay.
on Sunday
Yeah.
mornings. We can't even get out the door. I'm like, "Listen, if we didn't have to be there early for our, like, responsibilities in ministry, I'd be rolling in late every week, especially if I had to do it by myself."
Yeah.
But I'm like, "But still get there." Like, you're not a burden. Your kids are so welcome, and if they're not, find a different church, but
Church.
seriously, like, most churches are gonna love the sound of a baby, especially, babbling in a church sermon. There's
Absolutely.
kids areas, and I know a lot of people, may not trust a kids area, but, like, your bigger churches are gonna definitely have some great measures in place to keep kids safe, but, no, not the little churches don't. I'm just saying, like, I know ours in particular, we definitely vet people, and so,
Yeah.
and
Same.
they learn to know and love Jesus on their level, and,
Yeah.
partnering with the church is huge in giving your kids Jesus and just showing them that, like, being in a community with believers is necessary to grow your faith, and being around people who are kingdom-minded is huge, and just answering questions when they have them about Jesus, and trying to, if something's tough, just being like, like Jesus, He understands that you're frustrated and He's with you all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you mentioned it too, like about them seeing you read the Bible and like emulating that.
Yeah.
That's
It's
huge.
your actions, like, matter way more than you think,
Mhm.
and I've seen that in a positive way and a negative way. So, like, for example, the other day, sometimes we put Charlotte in timeout because she's just rude and needs a reset, and
Mhm.
Lila apparently thinks that her baby doll needs timeout now, and so she'll tell her
Ooh,
baby doll to go to timeout.
ooh,
Oh gosh.
uh-oh.
Oh, man, and I know, like, we're always with Charlotte when she's in timeout, we don't ever, like,
Mhm.
close her door and isolate her, but, um, Lila is so passionate about her baby going to timeout, and I'm like, "Our kids are little sponges, they literally see
Mhm.
everything we do and want to be just like us, whether it's good or bad. And
Yeah.
what better way, like, to emulate Christ than to sit down and read his word and be in close relationship with him and have your kids see that. Like, I
Yeah.
love the idyllic, like, get up at 5:30 in the morning, have your time with Jesus, eat your breakfast, and have a hot cup of coffee all before your kids wake up. But that is just not my life. Like, that is not
No.
my life at all. I am lucky if
Nope.
I get half a cup of lukewarm coffee, like, every
Mhm.
morning. Um, and so your kids being involved and seeing you spend time in the word is just so, so fruitful, more than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then Blaine, back to your point about going to church with your kids. I had to do a lot of like this past weekend, my kids were in the nursery slash their little class, like, all weekend long. Like, I was
Oh,
leading
yeah.
Cody had his, like, responsibilities, and so, like, Saturday night, they were in their class, and then all 3 services on Sunday, literally from, like, 7:30 to, like, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I kept feeling, like, so guilty that they were there, and then on Monday, I talked with one of my friends, and she was leading, like, the 3rd service, on Sunday for Charlotte's class, and she
Mhm.
said that Charlotte stopped her in the middle of her doing the lesson and said, "I'm gonna teach it," and Charlotte taught the rest of the class.
Oh my goodness. Look at that girl go.
She had been there, like, she had already heard and
She's
sung
heard.
that song. She's heard the
Yeah.
story, like, 3 times before, and apparently Charlotte was like, "I got this. I'm gonna tell this
Oh
story."
my gosh. That's
I'm like,
amazing.
if that's not my child, I don't know what would be, because that is totally me at her age. Um,
That's
but
awesome,
and then when
honestly.
I heard my friend, say that, I was like, "Well, that's a good reason for her to be there." And then when we got home and asked Charlotte what she had learned, she said, "I don't wanna talk about it."
She would sis was just
Done.
exhausted
She
from
was so done.
figuring out
She's
herself.
like
Mhm, yeah.
she's like, "I already
She's
taught
like,
the whole class. I don't need to teach you fools." Like,
I did this already, thank you."
yeah,
That's awesome.
that's exactly what it was. But yeah, I was feeling guilty that they were there all weekend and not Cody and I, but I'm like, what better place for them to be, than hearing that over and over again and
Yeah.
letting them know that Jesus is alive. Like, they were all so excited about that. And um, but yeah, shifting gears a little, Blaine, what kind of resources have you used with your kids? What do you recommend for moms, or really anyone, to use to, you know, either enhance their walk with the Lord in a more simplistic way, or just introduce all of that to their kids?
So, we at our church, they introduced a few years ago the Parent Q app, CUE, Parent
Okay.
Q. There's an app and a website. I'm subscribed to their, like, little newsletter or whatever, and so they'll send us out stuff, and it's for kids of all ages. And they kinda take you through the stages of your kid's life in terms of, like, when they're babies, everything is centered on, "I need my mama," or, "I need my daddy," or just, like, that
Yeah.
dependency. Anyways, so it's, like, age-appropriate things that parents can be mindful of with their
Mm,
kids. So, great parenting resources, great church resources, all that. We've referenced it, but the Jesus Story Bible, love it. Love at the end of every story in that, it's always like, but God had a plan to send a shepherd or to send a savior that would fix all this, basically.
mhm.
So, really just pointing it back to Jesus coming.
Wow.
Um, I don't know if you guys have these. I'm looking at them right now, but Kevin DeYoung has the
So the biggest story?
mhm. So he's
Yeah,
got the
we
biggest story
love
Bible. Yeah,
yeah.
and we've got the biggest story ABC book.
Yes, we have that too,
Mhm.
and
It's
it's
beautiful.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. The
I
drawings
love it.
are amazing. Yeah.
Those are good if you're thinking about somebody who's having a baby soon, that is
Oh, yeah. The
so
Biggest
sweet.
Story ABC is top of my list when I'm buying like new
Um,
mama books or something.
I'm looking at it right now, but there's a set of 5 books, and it's basically like a colors primer,
Yes,
an
we have
animals.
all of the books.
Yes,
And
we have 5? Are there 5 in the series? I'm looking at them on our thing, I'm trying to think of all of them, but,
yeah,
like,
there's like a
something
movement
my babies loved
primer.
it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they're so, so good. Like I love the Psalms one. I think that's the movement
Uh-huh,
primer.
yeah.
And it just basically walks through different verses of the Bible and puts like movements to them, like standing or sitting
Oh,
or
yeah. Mhm.
um, yeah, those books are so, so good. And really ones that are primers kind of get your kids in like a learning space
Mhm.
as well as like teaching them the gospel. So it's kind of you kill
Yeah,
two birds there.
right. So that's, like and, Jenny Allen has Theology for, like, babies and kids, I think that's a whole set of books. Same thing, like the gospel on, like, a kid level.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. So we're kind of in like, little kid, toddler, babyhood books and resources, but,
Yeah.
um, the Daily Grace Co.
Oh,
has
yeah. They have some really great books. Yeah.
yes, it's beautiful. It is super inexpensive. Like, go to their website. They have
$4.
yeah,
Yeah.
anything that you can think of topically for families, for teens, for your friend who's going through XYZ, really, really good resources. So we've done the, All About Jesus book study, which was where our kids learned the, verse. Basically, I say a quarter, but I think it just depends on how quickly you move through the book.
Yeah.
But now we're on the character of God, and, we're doing that study, and so it's a daily devotional, but of course we're doing it weekly, and so we're just talking about, like, God is truth, God is love, God is, this and that, and just talking through what that looks like
Uh,
on their level. And some of these resources, I will say, and you said it too, but, like, we do kinda have to put it in language that our kids can understand, and so some stuff,
like if
you
big words come out that
mhm,
we don't really know even the meaning of,
yeah,
we gotta make it digestible for them.
yeah, um, the that's what I was gonna say. Some of the Daily Grace Co. stuff, we definitely have to sometimes, like, manipulate it just in terms of, okay, can the kids understand, um, this? Or if
Yeah.
it's too trying to explain it a little bit more because sometimes we'll talk about the Trinity, and I'm like, "Okay, what's the Trinity?" Like, just breaking it
Exactly.
down. But it's good. I mean, it always leads to good conversations. Even if
Yeah.
they have questions, at least they have questions, And sometimes we have questions and I refer to Andrew, I'm like, "We're gonna ask your daddy."
Yeah, exactly. Just give it to the, seminarian.
Yep, mhm, yep, that's exactly what I say,
Oh,
but
man. Yeah, we definitely read some of those ones that you were, talking about, Blaine. We love the Jesus Storybook Bible. We love The Biggest Story. Um, my kids love The Biggest Story. I think it's The Biggest Storybook Bible. I can't maybe it's not storybook. I can't remember the exact name, but it's the Bible version of that ABC book, and
oh,
my
yeah, mhm,
kids
yep,
love it, and it's all about the snake crusher.
mhm,
Refers to God as the snake crusher, so that's always like really cool when we talk about that. And um, my kids get roar like excited with like,
aw, yeah,
um, but then those primer books, they're actually by Baby Believer, and
okay, yeah, mhm,
they have like 11 books in that priming series, and we have about 3 or 4 of them.
mhm,
But some of my favorite books, and they're all board books, which is really great if you have toddlers
yes,
or like younger kids, like 3, 4, 5. They're called Big Theology for Little Hearts,
mhm,
and they're by Devon Preventure, and there's 6 books in this series that go from like the gospel, Jesus, God, the church, the Holy Spirit, and creation. It talks about just those like key points of beliefs within, the gospel story, and
Yeah.
they're really, really great. We have all 6 of them, and my kids love them. So yeah, they're just great little books to just have on hand. We have like a whole shelf downstairs that has like just all of the books in a row
For
that we,
those, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I
Um,
think we can definitely link some of these resources in the show notes.
yes,
And
I certainly will. And if you ever, of course, have any questions, like, you can always DM us and ask us, but, a lot of times your church, if you're, involved or not, but at a local church, like, their kids ministry is gonna have resources, somewhere, available somewhere. But, of course, all of the ones that we've mentioned, but, yeah, just being intentional with your own walk to actually show your kids that you are talking to Jesus daily, that you are spending time in the Word and that they see that, and it's, what you're pouring into them is just an overflow of what you're learning, you know,
yeah,
your own walk. But there's too much content out there to not do just something, like, there
yeah,
can't be "Well, I don't know what to do because I can't find anything." I mean, there really are lots of resources, so and it doesn't have to look perfect. It's usually gonna be chaotic, but that's okay.
yep, that's exactly right. It's never going to be picture perfect, and if it is, that's wonderful for you.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I think oftentimes, especially within millennial circles in the church, and with like the technology age of putting everything we do on social media, we kind of get these ideals in our head of what that should look like with our kids. And
Yeah.
really, what works for your family is the best thing that you can do. And that's really all that matters there. And yeah, that's just a great space to be in. Uh,
Good.
so yeah, we hope that you kind of gleaned something from this. And yeah, we will definitely link all of the resources we talked about in the show notes. And just thank you guys for listening and being a part of this community. And we'll see you next week.
See y'all.